Hello, students and parents at Fountain Middle School. This is Dr. Dallas, your principal, and I've wanted to share a quick video. We received a lot of comments from parents and from students that they appreciate the town hall meeting that we shared and the other videos that we've been sharing in regards to trying to clarify some of the changes that are going on around in-person learning, remote learning, hybrid learning, and do the best we can to try to answer some of those questions. So I prepared this quick video to try to help parents understand and students to understand what hybrid learning is and what that will look like for them based upon the district's announcement that we will be moving forward the hybrid learning date from what was previously September 15th to what is now the week of September 7th. And so I wanted to share a few things with you. One of them is the screen that I have up here that you can also see, which shows the Fountain Middle School website. In addition to that, I have the letter that went out from the school district along with some additional resources for you so that you can gain some additional information. But essentially, I've also prepared a few questions that we've heard commonly from parents that I'd like to try to help create clarity. And so the first is, what is hybrid learning and how is it different than remote learning? So with schools the size of Fountain Middle School, where we do have, close to 1,100 students who are enrolled, some of those students are now currently enrolled in the virtual academy, but most of the students are still enrolled for in-person learning or remote learning at Fountain Middle School. That can be a pretty stark difference compared to what we have been doing in the environment that we have been in for a number of weeks and months now. And so the purpose of hybrid learning is to build upon the success that we've had with the orientation days at Fountain Middle School and to move from a remote environment where all students are at home all 5 days of the week to a hybrid to where some of the students are in the building on some days of the week while other students are at home still in a remote setting for other days of the week. And essentially what this does is it allows for us to reduce the size of the student population that would be in school by approximately 50%. And so we've created two groups. We have group one or group A, as you'll probably hear it called more often, which is students whose last names begin with the letter A through K. And then we have group B, which is students whose last name begin with the begin with the letter L through Z. And so by doing that, we have gone through all of our classes, and it is very, very close to an approximate 50-50 split within the school, within the classes. So we will have some classes that are going to have, 10, maybe even less than 10 in them, but most of our classes are averaging between the 10 and 15. We currently have just a few classes in each grade level that, with the current split, we would have, depending upon the A day or the B day, we would have maybe upwards of 17 students into a classroom. So in the event that we do have a classroom that is going above 15, we are taking additional precautions to increase the social distancing in that classroom. But in all cases, we have made some furniture changes, some arrangement changes, and equipment changes in the classroom so that every student, when they're in the classroom and in their desks, will be able to maintain 6 feet of social distancing between other students who are with them. That is something that we can do when we're having class sizes that are more like 15. Becomes more challenging when we have 100% of the student population in the building, but we are working towards that and some solutions around that as well for in the circumstances that we might find ourselves in a situation or environment where we have all students back in the building. But essentially, the hybrid learning and how it differs from remote learning is 100% of the students at home. Hybrid learning is approximately 50% of the students at home, while 50% of the students are in the building for a real person, and it rotates based upon day. But again, group A would be students' last name A through K. Group B would be students' last name L through Z. So that addresses a little bit about how hybrid learning is different from remote learning. But to build on that, one of the questions we did receive is, what will students be doing when they're at home if they're not in the classroom? So currently with our remote learning, much of our education is real-time in-person learning, where we have students in Zoom meetings, students conferencing with teachers, students sharing with other students and doing some collaborative work, but it's all done virtually. So when we move to the hybrid system, the days students are at home, will move a little bit away from that real time to where teachers will prepare some videos ahead of time. That might be a lecture or some explaining of the assignment that they want students to do. We call that screencastifying because that's the program that we're using in order to develop those videos. In fact, that's the program I'm using right now to develop this video. And we will post those and other like resources, maybe a YouTube video or a video from Khan Academy that will help to explain some of the work that students are going to be doing. But then students would be provided with independent work that they would be completing through the Schoology platform during the days that they're not in school. So they will still follow the remote learning schedule each day that we have already produced. We have the day 1 and day 2. And so that'll pair nicely with the hybrid learning days, and the students will follow that same remote learning schedule when they're not in the building. But the key difference is going to be there will be less direct interaction in real time with the teacher during that time. So that's a bit of a difference as to what will be happening when students are at home during the hybrid system. Another question that we anticipate getting is how many students will be in the school for real in-person learning when we're in hybrid, and what will that look like? And so I touched on that a little bit by dividing the students by last name. We're able to create two different cohorts within our already cohorted system. So students will still follow those cohorts by their university team. They will still eat lunch in cohorts in the lunchroom. We will and have been able to maximize to where we have large lunchrooms, but we are considering each of those lunchrooms one room, and we're keeping the total student population in one of those rooms to below the 100-person maximum. We anticipate each to be somewhere between 70 to 80, depending upon the day, in the lunchroom, and that does allow for us to social distance students at the table by less than 50% capacity at the table. So if the table has a capacity of 12, it allows for us to do every other seat or rotate seats in that fashion to where we can get that number down to about 4 to 5 people at a table, and allow for social distancing between tables as well. When it comes to everything else, students will enter and exit the building through their assigned doors that align to their cohorts. Their cohorts exist in the general education classroom environment. They exist in the elective classroom environment. They will exist at lunches as well. Safety protocols will be the same that they were during orientation, to where we'll check in with kids, make sure that they're feeling okay, and we will be doing temperature checks. Students will be able to, once they've completed their health screening, go down to the cafeteria in the morning to pick up their lunch, or excuse me, their breakfast, and bring that back to their advisory class. We'll start with advisory classes for all students in person, where they'll be doing some homework checks, checking in on remote learning, working on eating their breakfast, those sorts of things. And so obviously when students are eating their breakfast, they'll have to take their mask down, but when they're not eating their breakfast, we ask that they increase their mask use. We will also be making sure as those students travel from group to group in their cohorts to the fullest extent possible as well. So real person learning will look much like the orientation days, only your student at orientation day was with all of the kids from their cohort. We just had only 2 cohorts in the building at once. Remote or hybrid learning, we will have every cohort from the entire building in, but half of the people in each cohort, which is how we decrease the size of the student population at that time. So I talked a little bit about some of the safety protocols. Where can I find some additional information on this topic from the school or from the district? So the first thing I want to do is I wanted to point out the Fountain Middle School website. Fountain Middle School website and the Facebook page are definitely the 2 best ways to be finding out a lot of this information directly from the school. And up here in the programs, there isn't, if I hover over it, I could come down here to remote learning, and it will bring me to a remote learning page, and which has a lot of information in it for parents. The remote learning guide, which is in Spanish as well, our schedule, which I've kind of highlighted also. But if you were to click on the 2021 remote learning guide, you would get a PDF. And if you go down to page number 15 in that PDF, you'll see secondary schools, grades 6 through 12, Fountain Fort Carson High School, Carson Middle School, and Fountain Middle School. And you'll see the hybrid learning schedule. So Group A and Group B, again, Group A is students' last name A through K. Group B is students' last name L through Z. So my last name is Dallas. So if I were a student, I would then be in cohort A. So as you can see down here, No students are in the building on Monday. On Monday, we will be observing office hours so that students can virtually check in with teachers and get tutoring and get some additional support. Our teachers will also be planning the instruction that students will be doing during remote learning. So it looks very, very similar to the remote learning schedule that we have now when we move into the hybrid schedule. The difference is if I were coming to school at Fountain Middle School with last name Dallas, I would be in cohort A. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, I would actually come for in-person instruction. So I'll be in the classroom. I will follow my day, starting at 8:30, ending at 3:55, as if I would have in a non-COVID environment. However, on Thursday and Friday, I will move to the remote learning schedule. So instead of being at the school, now I'm at home and I'm following that remote learning schedule. So to help with that, if we were to come back here to FMS, and this has been sent out a few times, if we were to take a look at the remote learning schedule for Fountain Middle School, then we will have to change this to be day one remote, day two remote. So if I come over here to Thursday, when I am remote at home, because my last name is Dallas, I would follow the schedule as it's seen down the Tuesday, Thursday. So I would have announcements, advisory, period one, lunch, period two, period three, and then time to work independently. Then on Friday, when I'm in remote learning, I would follow the Thursday, Friday schedule. So remote learning would be announcements, period four, period five, lunch, period six, period seven, working independently. And so that's how those schedules can be merged together. Now, if I'm in cohort B, because my last name might start with an S, then again, during Monday, I'm in a remote setting. So I'm working on any assignments that the teachers have assigned me. Teachers are working on putting classes and materials remotely and getting prepared for the upcoming lessons. I continue in remote learning for Tuesday and Wednesday, but then I'm in person instruction at Fountain Middle School on Thursday and Friday. So in this case, my Tuesday remote learning, if I were in cohort B, would associate with the Tuesday, Thursday schedule in remote learning. My Wednesday for remote learning would align with the Wednesday, Friday for remote learning. And so that's kind of how those, two different systems can work together. In addition to that, the district did send out this letter. I think it was just yesterday, and it indicates some of the information about the shift from hybrid learning and remote learning and moving that up a little bit, which is really in good news. It's based upon some of the information that's come from El Paso County Health on decreased spread rates, and this is really the time that we can most likely be able to get kids into the building and maintain them in the building, because we're still in those later stages of summer, and not quite into those later stages of fall and winter. And so this is definitely the time that we can build capacity with kids, really try to focus in on that in-person learning and do the best we can to support them in preparation for any other opportunities where we may be forced into a remote setting that could come, along with winter or any other changes that we might see in the current environment as it is. So that's just a little bit on remote learning, how it's different from hybrid learning, what to expect as we get closer to September 8th. I will be sending out the remote learning schedule and the hybrid learning schedule so that it shows how those days work when we're in remote learning, for students and for parents as well. And I'd also like to welcome people and encourage them to consider joining us. Information would have just gone out a moment ago on our Facebook page, and it will be going out in some additional information to parents regarding our virtual open house. We would love to have everybody here for our open house. However, with the current environment being what it is, we need to do that virtually, and we plan to do that on September 8th, which is the first day of in-person learning at Fountain Middle School for Group A, and we're doing that starting at 5 o'clock through 6:30. It'll start with a live tour of the building with myself and a brief introduction from myself to and welcome to our families. But then we will move into time to where parents and students will have the ability to click on a link and go directly into a Zoom meeting or conference with their core teachers, to where parents will be able to ask questions, interact directly, gain some information from teachers about expectations, where they can receive help, what the goals are for the year, that whole team focus. Then we'll have a short break to allow for people to transition over to a different set of possible rooms that you can choose, which would be the electives teachers and special service providers like speech language pathologists, gifted and talented educators, those sorts of things. So that'll be from 5:45 till 6 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, we will be opening, the administration will host another town hall meeting with parents who might have any questions, and a lot of those questions will be submitted ahead of time. But we did one of those a little bit ago and it went very successfully. And that's going to be the Fountain Middle School virtual open house. So again, look for more information coming, but mark your calendars September 8th, which is a Tuesday, starting at 5 o'clock. And the teacher and live, direct interaction will end at 6. And then at 6, we'll have a town hall format with just the administration for anyone who would like to stick around and ask some questions. So I hope you found this video informative, and I hope that it helps with understanding the differences between remote learning and hybrid learning. It starts to prepare parents and students for what they can expect come the week of September 7th when we start with the hybrid learning. But remember, even though I'm saying the week of September 7th, the Monday is no students in the building, and it's remote learning and teacher preparation. So it really begins on the Tuesday, September 8th, because that's the first day that we actually have students in the building. Thanks, and we hope to see you around Fountain Middle School sometime soon.